Hello, my name is Lydia, and I am making 3D triangular unit pieces for Stockton University's the Art and Math of Origami course. This is an easy level piece, and it only involves mountain and valley folds. Now, this piece has existed for hundreds of years, and it's actually an example of Chinese paper folding rather than the Japanese paper folding we all think of. Now, what happened is that Chinese immigrants brought this to the West in 1996, but the piece is so old we don't actually know who created it. Now, pieces of 2" by 3" paper are needed. You can see this black piece right here, and you can have some variability in the dimensions of the piece. You can do 2 and 2 3/4 inches, or you can do 2 1/4 by 3 1/4, just so long as one side is roughly 1.5 times the length of the other side. Now, as these pieces are for modular origami, which is where two different pieces or more pieces link together to build a larger structure, the number of pieces you will actually need changes depending on what model you're building. So this is what your typical paper looks like, the black paper, and you can actually make it out of printer paper. This is white printer paper, and what you can do for this piece of paper, because it's 8 by 11 inches, you can fold it into 16 different pieces. Now, each piece of paper should be folded evenly in quarters on both sides. You can fold on top of each other, you can fold and unfold, just so long as the 1/16 area dimensions are roughly 2 by 2 3/4. So then you fold the pieces of paper together, well, the piece. And there's multiple different ways you can fold this. I just like to do 2 valley folds together on one side and 2 valley folds together on another side. Now, these folds will change depending on what you're actually using as your original piece of paper, because what happens is, like, for example, if you use 6 by 6" origami paper, not only will your dimensions be slightly different, but you actually have to fold it into 6 to get the right dimensions. Now, the next step is to actually cut along your crease lines. You see the crease lines that are made right there, and cut them into smaller pieces of paper. So I'm going to quickly cut it into 1/16 along those crease lines. And it's a little uneven. This process is made quicker by using a paper cutter, but do you see how I got roughly the same size? That's what you're trying to go for. So we're going to make the piece using the black origami piece. And this is the point where your individual pieces of paper are now actually complete, and we can start folding. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to begin by holding this smaller paper in a landscape configuration. Now, part of what you have to make sure of is that your color side is down, because when we make the first fold, all of the outside colors will actually be what your piece is made of. So begin by holding your smaller paper in a landscape configuration. Make a valley fold where the top edge comes down to meet your bottom edge. Crease this and keep it folded. So then you're going to make another valley fold where the right edge meets your left edge. Now again, you're going to crease this and you're going to unfold it. Do you see the crease right there? Alright, so you have the fold that you have made by going to your left, and you see the crease in the middle? What you're going to do is you're going to bring your top right edge down to that crease. You're going to make a 45-degree angle between the crease and the edge of your paper, 135 degrees in total. Now you're going to repeat this step, bring the top left edge down to the middle, and you have now repeated it on the other side. Now, you can flip the model over at this point. Make sure to keep them creased. And you see how there are 2 different flaps right here? What you are going to do is you're going to make valley folds with each of them and flip them up, with the line being where the flap stops. Do you see this line? I particularly folded this kind of uneven so you can actually see the white, and you're going to fold it with the white being your stopping mark. and the flap is going to go up. This is another valley fold. And you're going to repeat it on the same side. And what happens is now you're going to flip the model over again. Do you see how you have the lines in the middle made by the folds, and then you have the flaps on the other side? What you are actually going to do now, here is a close-up for the pockets. You're going to make a mountain fold. Do you see the two pockets that this creates when you actually fold it correctly? If you've ended up with these two pockets, you've made it correctly. Now we're almost done. Different pieces into this because the pockets are full. They're fully created. So you can do this. But do you notice how this piece doesn't have extra material from the flap and this one does? Your next step is to actually just cut off the excess paper from the flaps. Alright, and this is your 3D triangular unit piece made from black origami paper. You are going to have little bits of paper that come off. What I like to do is sell it as artisan handcrafted confetti. It's made me a couple dollars. So now what we can do is make more pieces for the origami. It's time to make 24,000. So here are your 24,000 pieces. Obviously that is in quotation marks, and you don't actually have to make 24,000 pieces for your model. It depends on what you're making. 24,000 pieces is how many I made for a life-size Vaporeon. Normally your pieces will involve 100 to 200 pieces. Now the interesting part for this is how you lock them together. As you can see, as I mentioned before, there are two different pockets, and you see how there's two folds right here? You take these points and put them into the pocket. Now this particular form of locking them together makes straight edges, and if you repeat it, you can just have a straight edge that keeps going. Now something that you have to be careful of is that sometimes the flaps unfold and get stuck in the piece. You can just undo them and refold them. So what happens is when you do that, you can just go on and make a straight edge forever. What you can do to widen the pieces is have the two next to each other, and you would have a total of 4 pockets, right? So what you can do is just take these two flaps and put them in between the two pieces, and it connects the two pieces. Do you see how that makes everything wider? And there's now different points that you can actually connect it to. You can also do something that I've heard has been called an inverse row, where do you see how before when I linked them together, the same sides, they matched up and they were similar? What an inverse row does is actually flips it over. So do you see? And you put it in. So this is what's called an inverse row, and you see the pattern it creates? When you grab another piece, what you can do is lock it in. Now you can lock it so that's the same as the inverse piece, or you can undo it and lock it so that it's different from the inverse piece. And each time what you will do is make a different pattern. This has been good for different trees and whatnot because it can replicate certain bark patterns. So what you can do is you can just have fun with it. You can do everything that you can. I've made a Vaporeon, I've made a peacock. And there are different links online to different tutorials of stuff you can make. I can put them in the description, and basically all you really need to do is have fun with it and be creative. And this is my video. Happy folding!